Kia ora koutou, everyone. Thanks for listening to this. This is the podcast for getting to know people who are standing for the ITP National Board. And today I'm here to talk to Nathan Bromberg. Kia ora, Nathan.
Kia ora, Vic.
Lovely to see you. Now, Nathan is an existing board member, so I know Nathan pretty well. And I'd have to say, Nathan, you've been a great supporter for me in the first 6 months I've been in this role. And I want to thank you for all of your help and support and ideas and feedback. It's been fantastic working with you already.
And thank you as well. I know I've had a few harebrained ideas that you've gone along with, so that's been great.
I love ideas and I love suggestions and have had lots, but I've really, really appreciated yours. So the first question I'm asking everyone is, what are you proud of? And it can be something that you're proud of in your personal life, from your work life. I know it's really awkward sometimes talking about yourself, but tell me about something that you're proud of.
I actually want to mention two things. One, fairly briefly, but I think I'd be remiss not to. I'm actually pretty proud of how well I've survived and thrived over the last few years, despite everything that's gone on. And I think that's something definitely to be proud of, because I know a lot of people have really struggled during this time. And I won't say that I haven't struggled, but it's good to come out that other end in one piece, still thinking that, you know, the world's a great place and we can still get involved with it, you know, now as we're all beginning to come out of our houses a bit more. But also, as part of that, the last couple of years, I've really had the opportunity to do a bit more work with ITP. And in particular, I've loved being involved both with the mentoring program as a mentee and the mentor. But probably my favorite thing, and the thing I'm most proud of, is actually the work with Tahi Rua Toru Tech, which is an absolutely fantastic program for anyone watching. I think you should have a look at that and get involved, because and it's something I'm going to answer as part of a question coming up. Our young people are so important, and getting to them and bringing them into the fold of our industry is just so important. So I'm really proud to have had a small, but a part of that nonetheless. And you know, I'm equally proud of the kids that I've worked with. They are just going to hopefully transform our industry into something really special.
Oh, it's so awesome. Makes the heart sing when I hear you talk like that. That's great. So my next question is to ask you, what makes you happy?
This was a particularly difficult one for me, because it's changed quite a lot recently. I used to really be quite a fidgety person that would want to get up and go out everywhere. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last wee while is getting used to enjoying simpler things, not having to be super mobile, not having to, you know, go out everywhere. And actually things as simple as cooking and eating healthily have become a really fun thing to do. And from a more professional point of view, I think, and this is not new, this has been something that I've enjoyed forever. I love problem solving. Particularly when it comes to people and processes. I know that's probably a bit unusual for a software developer to say, but that's something I've always enjoyed at work, is first and foremost looking at where we can help people before we just launch into code. And yeah, that's something that I've come to enjoy, particularly, I suppose, now I'm not getting to see people all the time. So I work from home, I think it says in my bio. So really I think we take for granted all of these personal interactions, particularly those of us that are a little bit introverted. We think, you know, it's going to be great, don't have to see anyone ever. But actually, yeah, I'm really enjoying, again, a bit unusual perhaps as a software developer to say, really enjoying those meetings that I get to have now. Whereas previously it would have been, meetings.
Oh, that's really cool. And isn't it funny how often people who love cooking also love problem solving? There must be something in our brains, those of us who are problem solvers, who also really enjoy cooking. I've heard this from other people as well.
Well, I mean, we do some meal delivery service stuff because that's really easy, because I love cooking, but I don't like trying to choose what I want to cook. The enjoyment for me is mixing it up and actually taking an existing idea and making it better. As you said, it's that problem solving element. And part of any good problem solving process is you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn from it. I think, one day, one person in my household made salmon chili con carne, and I will just say that was not a great mix. So we learned from that one.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Now let's get to the serious stuff. So in the written questions, we asked you to share how you think ITP can offer the most value to our community. Expanding on this, what do you see as the single most important thing that we as ITP need to be focusing on today?
This answer, I think it's not just for ITP, it's for a wider group, but I still think it's really important. And the most important thing, we're facing a diversity crisis in our industry, and that has so many impacts. Firstly, we just don't have enough staff, and in 10 years the world is looking at just such an outrageously massive shortage of skilled people. Guess what? It takes a decade or so to get people from unskilled to skilled. So we've got to solve that problem now if we're going to avoid that. But also, I'm a big systems thinker, and it's always interesting to look at it from a systems point of view. One of my favorite systems thinkers from history is a guy called Ashby, Ross Ashby, I think it is. And he had this idea of the law of requisite variety, and it's something that has become quite applicable to lots of different systems, including human systems. And that's the rule that if you want your system to be able to withstand its threats, you need to have at least as many responses in the repertoire as there are those threats. And looking at that from a human point of view, from a people point of view, if we want to actually do the best by our people, we need to have diverse people involved in making those decisions. And I know that's probably a bit rich coming from a white man sitting here, but it really is important, and it really is something that we need to be doing better at, not just ITP and perhaps not just the IT industry, but just in general. It's something that we're going to have to focus on before we really do hit a crisis point.
Yeah, thank you for that. And as you know, you're preaching to the converted here on the need for diversity, not only from decision making, but also you're a software developer, right? Diverse software developers who come from different experiences are just so important to represent the consumers that you're building and maintaining that software for.
I personally work with a diverse team at my work, and I can tell you it makes, because I've worked with both diverse and non-diverse teams, and it just makes a big difference. Because even if they're not software developers, even if they're not doing what I do, just having those different perspectives, I might be a good problem solver, but I can't know everything. And I can't tell you the number of times I've had people come up with ideas I just didn't even think of. And that's where diversity is really valuable. And as I said, we don't have enough people. We can't choose to be picky. We need to be looking in poorer communities. We need to be looking in all sorts of places we're not currently, because there aren't enough people, and actually we want more people to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, that's awesome. So now to the $1 million question, or $1 billion question, however we want to look at it. So if you had a bottomless bucket of cash right now, what would you have ITP investing in to benefit either our members or the wider community, or even Aotearoa New Zealand as a whole?
I think my answer to that will be twofold, because I think there's two separate questions in there. The one is what we do for members and what we do for the wider community. For our members, I think focusing on growing our members, I'm not talking about having more, though more is obviously good, but the sort of training and engagement and certification as well side, where we say, look, we think this is the point you should be at, and we're going to help you get to that, because that's what New Zealand needs. And obviously that also is an investment in New Zealand itself. We can no longer necessarily rely on the mass import of people. I mean, obviously, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm British. I support immigration 100%, but we still do need to grow our own talent. And that, I think, is got to be something that ITP really is not just part of, but I think taking charge of, certainly within our own membership, getting more people into training and certification and continuing to do that professional development, because it can't just end at the end of a degree. Always love hiring people who have just come out of their degrees, because they're the ones who are full of the best and brightest ideas, and we slowly lose that over the time as we get further and further away from our education. And I think that's such a shame. And I think the other side of that is we should also be educating the public on certain issues as well. Look, we shouldn't be getting on TV and giving courses to the general public.
We should have country calendar for our industry, shouldn't we?
I don't think the viewership for that will be that great. But at the very least, we've got a lot of bright people in our membership, and we attract a lot of bright people. And and particularly in the academic sphere, people who are used to teaching people, I think it's a really good opportunity to present to the public our view of what we think our industry should look like, the ethics of it, where people can go if they're not having a good experience with an IT practitioner or the industry in general. And also what is so great about our industry, and hopefully that then tacks into the previous question and actually gets new people in and excited about what we do, we as ITP and we as the IT industry. I think as a country, we're extremely well placed to offer some excellent international IT services. But again, we need the people, and we need the brains behind that.
Oh, that's a great answer. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate your time today. And thank you for standing for the board and for your contributions to ITP to date on the board, and before that on your local branch. And I really look forward to working you in the future. So I'll say ka kite.